Hello, I'm Esther Githo-Yuat. It's Wednesday, January 19th. This is Africa 54.
Mali textile artisans voice concern over the loss of AGOA trade with the United States. Ousted Ghanaian President Alpha Conde leaves the country for medical treatment. And tips on how to become the continent's next big social media influencer.
The U.S. trade program that allows African countries to export many items duty-free to the American market delisted Mali on January 1st because of what the United States cited as unconstitutional developments in the country. But artisans in Mali's capital say they are the ones paying for the bad actions of the country's leaders. Mokhtar Barry reports from Bamako.
The U.S. cited unconstitutional change in its January 1st decision to drop Mali as a beneficiary of a duty-free trade through the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA. The West African country has experienced two coups since the 2020 and election delays by the military-led transitional government. Losing AGOA's competitive advantage is another blow on top of a global pandemic-related recession, says Musa Bagayoko, a Bamako craftsman who weaves and dyes cotton fabric.
There is no more work for America. The coronavirus had completely shut us out of everything. The U.S. government suspended us based on the fact that we do not have a good model of democracy at home. This suspension affects us craftsmen, not authorities. I have been accredited since 2013 and I earn my living through AGOA, but not if it is taken away from me.
Cotton trader Bisan Aminata Koulibaly says she too is suffering.
It's like we've had the bread knocked out of us. This is a big problem that blocks our business activities. It can push a company into bankruptcy, and a lot of people will go unemployed.
After gold, cotton is Mali's biggest export item. Many Malians are involved in growing it or making textiles. But relatively little cotton goes to the United States, and Mali is not a major U.S. trading partner. Losing beneficial trade status nonetheless will hurt the craft sector, artisans say.
Tell the people in power to avoid a coup d'etat. The suspension does not suit us. If you try to sell in America without AGOA, you won't earn anything anymore. Because the tariffs are so high, we have only a modest background.
The U.S. government said if Mali meets eligibility requirement for AGOA, it will consider restoring the country's participation in the trade program as soon as possible. Bagassi Koura, Mokhtar Barry for VOA News, Bamako, Mali.
Emanuela Del Rey, the European Union Special Representative to the Sahel, says the door needs to remain open for dialogue with Mali despite planned sanctions over a failure to hold elections. David Doyle has the story.
The European Union and its partners do not want to isolate Mali, the EU Special Representative to the Sahel has said. And that's despite the EU saying it plans sanctions in line with those imposed by ECOWAS. The West African bloc brought in tough measures against Mali earlier this month. That was after the junta, which seized power in May 2020, dropped a proposed February election and said it would stay in office for another 4 years. But the EU's Emanuela Del Rey said the door also needs to remain open for dialogue.
We have made it clear that we want to see a proper democratic transition. On the other hand, as well as the ECOWAS that has applied very strict sanctions. But on the other hand, of course, we must continue to keep a dialogue with Mali, because we don't want an isolated Mali. We want a Mali capable of overcoming this crisis.
A spokesperson for Mali's government said it was also open to talks. Thousands of Malians took to the streets in Bamako last week to protest the action taken by ECOWAS. The sanctions have seen borders closed and Mali cut off from financial markets. The country was already struggling after Al-Qaeda and Islamic State-linked militants hijacked a Tuareg rebellion in 2012. Despite the presence of thousands of international troops in the Sahel, insurgent attacks have continued. Hundreds have been killed and swathes of territory are ungovernable.
The terrorist groups are able to control territories is because they offer some small example of welfare, which, of course, in a way obliges the local communities to surrender to the imposition of power.
Del Rey said the EU was investing financially and with its own resources. She said the Malian people need to see an acceleration of programs around areas such as governance to tackle the root of the crisis.
David Doyle of Reuters filed that report. In a separate interview, European Union Special Representative for the Sahel told VOA's Jeff Seldin that the situation in countries such as Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger and Chad is very complex to control because of fighting among different armed groups.
The real problem related to security is the fact that, unfortunately, the countries are lacking infrastructure. If you live in a remote area, you are really distant from the capital. So you are out of any internal dynamic, social or economic dynamic. And therefore, it's easy for these armed groups and the terrorist groups to control territories that are easy to conquer and easy to keep under control, because usually the terrorists and the armed groups offer an alternative system of welfare in a context in which the welfare is non-existent. There is no access to basic services, and therefore this is something that occurs all the time. This is why the European Union is very much investing in governance, because we think that creating a good system of governance in each country would obviously help to solve this situation and create a system in which the population is involved and has access to services. We create a state of law. Usually the formula that we use is the return of the state.
That was Emanuela Del Rey, European Union Special Representative for the Sahel, speaking to VOA's Jeff Seldin. Two sources say Alpha Condé, who was ousted as Guinea's president in a coup last September, has left the country for a medical checkup. Clara Frank has the details.
Guinea's former president, Alpha Condé, has left the country for a medical checkup, two sources have said, without revealing his destination. Condé was ousted in September in a coup condemned by Guinea's neighbors and international partners. Last month, the ruling junta said the ex-president would be allowed to travel on medical grounds, but could not remain abroad for longer than a month. Condé has been detained by the junta, who accused his government of endemic corruption. The coup led to Guinea's suspension from the African Union and the Western African bloc, ECOWAS. A source close to Condé said he boarded a plane at 2 p.m. on Monday, January 16th. A top government official also confirmed the 83-year-old had left. Clara Frank, Washington.
She was on her final semester in medical school when she joined a national beauty pageant and was crowned Miss Uganda in 2002. Zoe Nakuya suddenly became a household name, and many sought her friendship and young men wanted to marry her. Eventually, she got married, but then her life took a downward trend. Zoe joins us live via Skype from Kampala to tell us how she picked up the pieces and found her passion to empower women, girls, and men. Zoe, it's a pleasure to have you on Africa 54.
Thank you, Esther.
Let's start off with being crowned. It's a pleasure being on VOA. Right. Let's start off with being crowned Miss Uganda. What was that moment like for you?
That moment, it was exciting. It was a surreal moment. it was also believable because, yes, I believed that, the possibility of me becoming Miss Uganda was there. It was exciting. It was fun as well, but it was also very, I felt a challenge in that moment because I was thinking, how now am I going to combine the task of being Miss Uganda and of doing internship? You know how heavy medical internship can be.
So Zoe, what kind of activities did you engage in during your reign as Miss Uganda?
Oh, it was a busy year. We did lots of fundraising for health activities, for health causes. Like we had a lack of breast cancer screening machinery, so we fundraised for that, and we were able to buy it. Fundraised for Special Olympics for the team from Uganda. Fundraised for several educational and health programs for orphans in Rwanda. Did lots of campaigns regarding vaccination, maternal health, youth empowerment, women empowerment, and there was so much more.
Now, Zoe, fast forward, you find a man you thought you could build a life together, but it didn't turn out that way, and you found yourself out there, single, and a single mother, and a failed marriage. How did that impact you and your children?
Oh, that was devastating. Not necessarily the end of the marriage, because at some point, certain things need to end. But what came with that, because I was on the floor, if I could term it as that, I was on the floor emotionally, mentally, and financially, and I had 3 children to look after. And then, of course, there's the stigma. We live in a very conventional, society. You're expected to be married and all that. So there was why? What happened, so it comes with the stigma of maybe she thinks she's educated, maybe she thinks she's beautiful, maybe she's big-headed, and lots of that. And when you've been up there and then suddenly you're totally on the floor and broke, that can be devastating for you and the people who love you.
You must be brave, Zoe, to have been on the public limelight in Uganda, and you picked up your pieces, but it wasn't easy. Not many people talk about being single mothers or talk about being divorced and all of that. But you are a doctor, you're a motivational speaker, and you've also written a book. How did you get back on your feet, and what can others learn from you?
Getting back on my feet started with the decision that what happened was a phase of my life, and I have got to move onto the next phase, the next act. And I was like, I have a whole lot of my life ahead of me. I have children to look after, and they have to look up to me one day and say, yes, Mom, Mom was there for us, and we are having a good life. So the other aha moment was I don't want to live another month or another year being sad or being low or being affected by people's opinions. So I started changing the way I think about myself, the way I think about life, and the way I think about what people say. And I started putting my voice at the forefront of what I want my life to be. So basically, my opinion started going above anyone else's opinion about my life.
So we have to get that book and read and share with so many other people. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Zoe. Zoe Nakuya is a former Miss Uganda.
You're welcome.
A public health specialist and an author. She joined us live via Skype from Kampala, Uganda. We'd like to hear what you think about Africa 54. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Still to come, what does it take to become a social media marketing guru and influencer? We'll have a report. But first, let's check in with Hedy Adams on what's coming up on Wednesday's Straight Talk Africa.
Be sure to join me for the next Straight Talk Africa as we reflect on the life and legacy of the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu. We'll speak to fellow anti-apartheid activist, the Reverend Alan Busak, about their friendship and their last conversation. We'll also introduce you to the new African Union ambassador to the United States, Hilda Suka Mafudze, about her plans for the young people on the continent and in the diaspora. So join me, Heidi Adams, on the next Straight Talk Africa.
U.S. President Joe Biden is ending his first year in office with low approval ratings, largely due to an economic recovery dragged down by inflation and a pandemic that is surging yet again. This despite reaching a bipartisan consensus to pass the $1.9 trillion stimulus plan and a $1 trillion infrastructure package. VOA White House Bureau Chief Patsy Widakuswara has this recap.
A $1.9 trillion COVID-19 relief package pushed through by the Biden administration in March has helped American businesses and families weather the financial impact of the pandemic. The package sent $1,400 in stimulus funding to millions of Americans and monthly payments that have proven successful in reducing poverty. But for many, rising inflation has minimized the impact of that assistance.
Due to the COVID, people don't have money. We just starting back to work and stuff like that. This is outrageous with the prices of the gas today.
Consumer prices in December were 7% higher than those of the year-ago period, marking the highest inflation rate in 40 years. Inflation has dampened economic recovery in a year that the administration says has shown the biggest job growth in American history.
Look at the initial unemployment claims. They're on average, they were at 812,000 a year ago. They're now at 210,000. The unemployment rate and obviously job creation the year before the president took office and the last year. As it relates to COVID, if we look to a year ago, only 1% of adults were fully vaccinated. 74% of adults are fully vaccinated now.
A relatively smooth rollout of COVID-19 vaccines has offered protection to more than 200 million Americans and even provided a brief return to normalcy last year. That is, until Omicron caused cases and hospitalizations to spike yet again. The pandemic and inflation have been two major factors in President Joe Biden's sinking approval ratings at the end of his first year, around 45% according to Ipsos, a market research firm.
The president campaigned on eradicating COVID and getting the economy and getting America back to normal. And the longer that the pandemic goes on, the more uncertainty Americans have, and frankly, the more frustration they feel about the fact that they're still dealing with the pandemic.
Meanwhile, Biden's legislative agenda is also a mixed bag. He pushed through a $1 trillion infrastructure law with Republican support, the biggest investment in the nation's public works in a generation. But he has yet to pass Build Back Better, his $1.75 trillion social spending and climate change plan, even though it has already been cut in half from its original size. Other legislative agenda items remain stuck. Two voting rights bills that would greatly expand federal control over elections are stalled in the Senate due to Republican opposition. Some analysts say the administration and Democrats need to reset their agenda.
They have to ask themselves, realizing that Republicans are going to have very little interest in playing ball on high salience issues. What are the smaller things that they can work on that might build up over time and kind of change the narrative from, hey, this guy came in and took big swings at the plate and whiffed, to, hey, this guy showed up and he hit a lot of singles.
And despite Biden's promise to heal a divided nation, Americans are still deeply polarized following the Capitol siege by supporters of Donald Trump on January 6, 2021. Polls suggest most Republicans still believe the baseless claim pushed by the former president that the 2020 election was stolen. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News, Washington.
Germany says it is prepared to pay a high economic price in order to defend its values. Tuesday's remark by Germany's foreign minister came as Western nations threaten Russia with crippling sanctions if it invades Ukraine. Henry Ridgwell reports.
400 kilometers west of Moscow, over 100,000 Russian troops are deployed close to the Ukrainian border. Ukraine and the West fear another invasion is imminent. Russia claims its deployment is to guard against NATO's expansion. Against that tense backdrop, Germany's Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock met her Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Moscow Tuesday and said Germany would defend Europe's fundamental values.
We have no other option but to defend those common rules, even if this means paying a high economic price.
In talks with the US earlier this month, Moscow demanded that NATO pull back its deployments in Eastern Europe and promise never to admit Ukraine as a member. The United States and its allies dismissed those demands. Meantime, Russia refuses to pull back its troops from the border.
We explained that we cannot accept any demands regarding the actions of our armed forces on our own land.
The German-Russian talks come amid another week of intense diplomacy. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is due to visit Kiev and Berlin as the West aims to present a united front. On Tuesday, NATO's Secretary-General held talks with Germany's Chancellor and reiterated the alliance position.
The risk of a conflict is real. NATO allies call on Russia to de-escalate, and any further aggression will come with a high cost for Moscow.
Germany said that cost could include the continued suspension of Nord Stream 2, the recently completed pipeline that can take Russian gas directly to Germany. Moscow is eager for the gas and the money to start flowing.
What is sometimes forgotten is that the current status, if played well, does Europe give also some leverage.
Meanwhile, Britain this week began delivering what it described as light anti-armor weapons to Ukraine. The United States has already supplied anti-tank weapons to Kiev and said the supply of military hardware would be stepped up if Russia invades. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
In our technology report, knowing how to become a social media marketing guru or influencer doesn't just happen overnight. However, it is easy to see why someone would want to become an influencer between gaining fame, having large paychecks, and the never-ending supply of free products. But what does it take to become a social media influencer? To learn more, Africa 54 technology correspondent Paul Ndiho spoke to Adiola Eka, an influencer and digitech strategist based in Lagos, Nigeria.
Adiola Eka, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you, Paul.
You are one of the leading digitech strategists in Nigeria. You have mentored a lot of people. You help people build brands. What does it take?
My influencer is a personal brand for me. While the digitech is actually the major company for me. So I run simultaneously two businesses at the same time. I saw that there was actually a blending between digital marketing as well as technology. Now, both of them come in handy with themselves. They complement one another. They are complementary services. Without the technology, the digital services cannot be able to operate. Well, digital marketing now helps to promote and actually showcases it actually what I say, it blasts out, it boosts out, it tells the whole world that come and see this particular platform that I am riding on, and this platform is what is able to help me to fly. Now, being an influencer for me is actually just pouring out who I am and all that I know into others, to be able to help them out, to be able to find different means of their passion, their skill set, as well as also being able to help them to find means of an income. empowerment, especially at a time like this.
Can anybody become an influencer?
Oh, yes. Everybody and anybody can become an influencer. Even if you're selling, no matter what you're selling, if you're a trader, if you're an importer, exporter, if you're a local roadside market woman, if you're a trader of a large, a large shop or large commodities, if you are a digital marketer, if you are a graphic designer, I mean, even you as a journalist, anybody can be an influencer. Now, this is what influencer marketing is. Influencer marketing is just someone who owns, as in who has a skill or several skills, and that person is able to help either their friends, family, community, and they're now able to build those skills, use it to build others, or use it to give services to others, or use it to, help others, to empower others.
What opportunities are there on the internet that people can tap into to better themselves?
First thing to do is go to Google. Google is everybody's friend. I'm not advertising for Google right now, but I will tell you that Google has done a whole lot to help me in my journey, in my digitech journey. It provided a whole lot of freebies for me. I'm able to learn so many things. I'm able to do so much from my phone. If you're a young person and you want to, digital means online. There are so many businesses you can run digitally. Digital marketing, social media marketing, influencer marketing, I had said it. Now, affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing is quite easy. Affiliate marketing is just for you to pick a company, sign up for their affiliate marketing services, go to website. There are a lot of websites, or you just go to Google, like I said. First and foremost, start with Google. Check out all the freebies that Google has and read up on them. You would find partners, you will find people who can help to explain. Check them up, let them train you in it. Or you can also find apps. If you are a hairdresser, you can actually sell yourself online. You can use your phone to create content, 2 minutes content on what you do. Just show what you do with your clientele and post it. Use that. That when you do it consistently every day, you're there consistently every day. I assure you that within a year, 2 years, 3 years, you are actually going to be one of the influencers that people are talking about.
Well, it looks like we've run out of time. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That was Africa 54 tech correspondent Paul Ndiho speaking to Adiola Eka, a Nigerian-based influencer and digitech strategist. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.